Peter Todd, Bitcoin Core Dev, and Brock Pierce, who is somewhere. Here he is. Ready for a swim party. The first startup will be MEXBT, coming to present here now.
Perfect. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Gabriel Miron, and I'm the CEO and founder of MEXBT. We're one of the leading exchanges in Latin America, and we see ourselves as enabling this new financial system to empower the poor and middle class of Latin America. Well, it's not working. Oh, there it is. So first, let me tell you a little bit about Latin America. We are 21 countries, Spanish-speaking countries, with a population of 600 million persons. The remittance market is valued at $67 billion. And the interesting thing is that 70% of this money it's one of the main sources of GDP of 70% of the countries. If we go to international commerce, imports, it's $1.12 trillion, and exports to the region, it's $1.13 trillion. And all this money is flowing through a financial system that was built 35 years ago. What are the opportunities? Well, 65% and almost 500 million persons, those don't have access to financial services, such as credit or bank institutions. Also, 68% of the population of the region are classified as in the poor class. This means that they live per day with less than $10. And one of the most important things is the actual banking system does not have the infrastructure or the cost incentives to satisfy this segment of the population. So what is our solution? Number one, we deployed our trading engine. So the trading engine receives cryptocurrencies and gets out fiat, pesos colombianos, pesos argentinos. It's able to deploy fiat. After this, we developed 3 business lines on top of it. Number one was the option for investors or speculators. They could lock their currencies against gold, against silver, against several currencies. We did this integrated locks from Counterparty. Number 3, we developed Send Bitcoin. We are deploying it this week, and it's still in beta version. How it works, people go in the site, say how much pesos they want to send, and it does the exchange rate on the exchange, and they just send the Bitcoins, we receive them, and deliver them in a network of 6,000 ATMs in Mexico. This is done without bank accounts and without cards. They receive a code, they go to the ATM, and withdraw these funds. And the most important thing is that we're opening our technology for developers and for companies to plug in and build solutions for sending money right now to Mexico, but our following steps is in different markets in Latin America. Who are we? Well, number one is our COO. He's Joel Cano. He was in charge of the expansion of Microsoft in Latin America in the early 90s. He went from 0 to $1 billion. Number 2 is our CTO. He's in charge of building all the technology. He has almost 13 years building software. And number 3, it's me. I'm the CEO and founder. I'm originally from Guatemala. I have 20 years old, and I've been an immigrant since I was 18. So I've lived what is sending and receiving money from abroad and the prices that we'll talk about. Then we have our board of advisors, legal and fiscal people that's helping us structure us in a proper way to operate. And at the moment, we've closed on 2013 $450,000 from 3 investors.
I guess first question I would have is, where are you in the process in terms of traction? Do you have users today? What is the transactional volume? And how many users do you have, and are you live?
Yes, we're live. We're officially live since November. We have 950,000 users active. And
950,000?
No, sorry, 950. 950. Yeah, and...
I was going to say, that's awfully large.
Yeah.
Can I give you some money now?
No. Yeah.
And of those 950 users?
Active users.
Yeah. What's the total users?
The volume, it's around 2,000.
Total users is 2,000 with 950 active. And then what's the volume of sort of transactions?
440 coins, 60 coins. It's pretty low. That's why we've developed the other products to grow the Bitcoins in the system.
And in the Latin markets, which countries in particular is your area of focus?
We're pretty interested in Colombia and Peru and Chile. They belong to the Alliance of the Pacific, which have free trade commerce between themselves, and with 85 countries in the world.
Sounds like you're going to end up holding Bitcoins on behalf of others. Any quick comments to what you're doing with security?
The expert there is our CTO, so I think that he would be the best person to answer that question.
But you're aware of it?
Yes.
Good start.
Thank you.
What's the regulatory environment like where you're operating?
The regulatory environment, the Bank of Mexico put a comment on early March warning about the situation. Right now we're classifying it as a asset, and we're working with one of the main fiscal entities in Mexico to structure the way that Bitcoin is going to be processed or work or considered in Mexico.
And what's your marketing plan? How are you going to get this out to consumers and businesses?
How we're going to get it to consumers? What we're looking for partners, for example. We have the part of crypto to fiat in Mexico. We're looking for ways to cash in and be able to buy Bitcoins in other markets. Also, for example, talking with BTMs and talking with people that sell Bitcoin in US or Europe markets.
What's your wallet strategy? Do you own your own wallet? Do you use a third-party wallet?
We have our own, but we are integrated with a provider, a third-party provider for security.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have former Bitcoin Foundation Education Chairman, Nikos Beneditis. He's representing COINSIMPLE.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Nikos Beneditis, and I represent COINSIMPLE. Full Bitcoin e-commerce, direct to wallet. So the next 3 minutes, I'm going to try to explain what e-commerce is. Full Bitcoin e-commerce, and I guess direct to wallet, you'll get it pretty easily. What e-commerce is not is if you have one product, one customer, and you price your products in Bitcoin. In that case, you can put on your website a link, your Bitcoin address, the amount that you want in Bitcoins, and you're pretty good. But if you want to run a site like, let's say, Amazon, or something even smaller than that, you have several customers, you might want to price your products in dollars or the local currency, and you want to be able to access your customers to access your website, not only your products not only from a website, but also from an iOS application or an Android application or all the other means. You also need accounting, you need reporting, you need analytics, and very critically, you need for each transaction a unique Bitcoin address. For technical reasons, for privacy and for security too, for every product that you sell, you want to give your customer a different and unique Bitcoin address that you, of course, control. So full Bitcoin e-commerce that's what that means. It's a complicated thing that several companies actually do very well right now. BitPay is the oldest and maybe the most famous. Coinbase, GoCoin, full Bitcoin e-commerce. So that's one part of the title. Now, on the other hand, you have your wallets. You have your Armory wallet, your Electrum wallet, or any other wallet that you use, or Trezor wallet, that give you several advantages, one of which is privacy, security, you have control of your funds, and this is something that several people like. When you want to have full Bitcoin e-commerce and you go with the existing players, you lose a little bit of that absolute control of your funds, because at least for a little bit, these providers control your funds. You have to go through the process of being a merchant with them, and that can take quite some time. So can you have both? COINSIMPLE is the answer to that. Next. So with COINSIMPLE, we provide full Bitcoin e-commerce directly to your wallet, which could be an Electrum wallet, an Armory wallet, a Trezor wallet, or any Bitcoin address that you need. And we focus on user interface and user experience, making the integration of these wallets to your website very easy, or to your mobile phone application very easy to switch, and you have rich analytics, a very important part of what to do. So if you want a shortcut for describing COINSIMPLE, you could say it's payment processing in a box for your wallet. Or for instance, if you're a Bitcoin exchange, it would be white label payment processing. We've been working on this for a while. The team is one of the strongest, I think, assets of COINSIMPLE. I'm on the upper left. Gabriel Mainrix is the CTO of the company. I'm sorry?
30 more seconds.
Yes, thank you very much. This is the team. Some of you might recognize Andreas Antonopoulos. So if you were to remember the company by one.
We don't need to know your team.
Okay, great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't get it.
You don't get it.
No, can you do it again?
Gladly.
Just like the really simple version. What do you guys do?
BitPay in a box. And
Okay, what kind of box?
a white labeled box.
Okay.
So for your wallet or for your Bitcoin exchange, for your business or for Bitcoin exchange.
What's the advantage?
What's the advantage? If you're a Bitcoin exchange, you have your own logo, you have your own user interface, your own colors. You control the funds, of course, all the time. There's no need to go through an intermediate. Now, but if you want to get the funds directly to your wallet, again, you don't need to have any interface with Coinbase, BitPay, or any other service provider.
Let's see if I can simplify this. Sounds like basically you're giving me the software that BitPay would run for me to run myself.
Yes, very well.
How do you make money?
There's two approaches that we have. One is we have a product for the general public where essentially they can connect their wallet, $30 per month subscription service. And we also have partnerships with exchanges. The first one is with MEXBT, who the CEO just presented. We're providing merchant processing for them.
And do you have customers today?
We are in the early stage. We have about 200 customers who are not paying because we're in a beta stage. And we have one big customer in terms of exchange, MEXBT.
Yeah, so those 200 customers are primarily traditional merchants with the exception of that one exchange?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have William Burton from Cashier.
Thank you, and welcome to my home city of Miami. I hope you guys are having a good time. As he said, my name is William Burton with Cashier. Cashier is a multi-currency payment processor that is free, and it will always be free. We believe that it is immoral to take free payment rails like Bitcoin and Ripple and set up what we call a toll booth for access. So we want to make sure that these payment rails always stay free. Now, let's try to keep up with this video here. Now, the way that we make up for that is in a number of ways. We can always advertise, that's a given. But what we did was we wanted to build a marketplace into the app where that included coupons, rewards. You want to list a product, one product, like you would on Craigslist? Fine. You want to list your entire inventory? Fine. Totally free. We can do all of that. We want to build an entire ecosystem within Cashier because we believe that the weakness within this space is that we are not getting consumer adoption. So our main mission is not necessarily monetization right now. Our mission is building a massive consumer user base. Without consumers, everything just stays stagnant. So we want to enable merchants to be able to accept any currency. We want to allow the consumer to be able to pay in any currency instantly, totally irreversible. Yeah. The marketplace. As I said, everyone is a merchant. So you can list anything you want totally free. The costs are minimal. We wanted to go after the current marketplaces like eBay, Etsy, things like that that charge exorbitant amount of fees. You can also purchase gift cards. And one of the special things about gift cards is if your balance, you give a gift card to someone, a lot of times there's a balance left. It'll expire. Though that balance will return back to you, the user. It shouldn't just be lost. So since we have the technology to do that, we definitely want to do that. And one of the other really cool things in this screenshot is that like Expedia, and this is one of my favorite features, is the app will actually, at point of sale, look across the web and find coupons that you didn't even know were there and automatically apply it to the sale, whether that's Retail Me Not, Groupon, whatever it is. So a really fantastic feature there. And we do these things, again, to try to increase the value proposition for consumers. And that's the problem that we're having. Merchants, easy. They're going to come on board. Consumers, we're still having a hard time doing that, so we want to try to do that. And now you see shots of the marketplace, a completed payment here, a completed payment, and we do ask you come to Cashier.net and please join the movement.
Thank you. How are you going to get around network effect? I mean, how are you going to get that initial group of people to actually use it?
Well, that's the challenge. And what we're going to do is, like I said, is build this marketplace, enable these coupons, start to show. See, commerce isn't just one thing. You can't take just tips or just coupons and expect them to survive on their own. We engage in commerce, it's a multitude of things. So by bringing all this into an app that's very simple, people can begin to recognize the benefits behind the technology without actually having to learn the technology. If you get them in and start showing them real benefits, hey, I just saved money, hey, this is fast, hey, this is secure, then they can actually start to look at things and say, maybe I actually want to store value in Bitcoin. Maybe this makes sense to me now, but we have to bridge, and Cashier is that bridge.
You know, I typically have a difficult time with businesses that have a B2B as well as a B2C focus because the type of organization you build is often very different. So if you have $1 million of capital, how does that capital get allocated in terms of a sales force trying to sign up merchants versus trying to contact consumers and get consumers downloading your app and using it?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to see, are you more a B2C company or a B2B company?
It really does. It is truly a chicken and egg, and we're hitting them both at the same time. We don't even try to sugarcoat it. For merchants, what we want to do is build a very simple SAS platform, so hopefully we can have a lot of no-touch conversions where we're marketing, but we don't actually have to have sales reps reaching out to them necessarily. We have the integration tools in place, the WordPress, et cetera, and other SAS integrations. Make it very simple. They already know how to use these tools. Let's not reinvent the wheel. For the consumer, marketing. Getting on the ground, talking to people, making relationships, getting out there. I would love to see more average consumers that don't know anything about cryptocurrencies in this room right now, because that's who we need to talk to. So marketing, getting into these events, really getting down on the ground, demos, showing them again, showing them why this matters, why this is faster, why it's cheaper, why it's safer. And there's going to be a lot of trial and error in that. A lot of testing to really figure out what's going to resonate with the consumer, what's going to get them to say, hey, this is the value proposition, this makes sense for me, it's time for me to make a change from my swipe card to mobile payments or something else.
How much of a competitor is Groupon to this model? Because I look at where Groupon came from and where they're going. I got some semblance of this is what Groupon wants to do as well.
You're asking how is this similar? I wouldn't say that it's similar. We want to be able to tap into Groupon and allow, if you have a Groupon account, you can actually enable that in the app. So when it does its global search across the web, it can look at Groupon and pull those coupons for you. You don't have to go to Groupon. In addition, and not to digress, but all the coupons that you get organically. Maybe you go to Walgreens. I always get this receipt. It's 20 feet long. I've got all these coupons. I don't want to store that. That stuff will store automatically in the app. When you walk in the store, it'll just automatically apply. So it's not a matter of necessarily competing. It's really just enabling and trying to reach into those and make this process a lot simpler as far as commerce goes.
How do you convince consumers to buy Bitcoins and then use your app?
How do you get consumers to buy Bitcoin?
No, and then use your app. Like, what's the benefit versus just going and buying something with a credit card?
Right. Our goal is not to get consumers to buy Bitcoin. Our goal is to get people to bypass Visa and MasterCard rails. We want to get past pre-internet rails first. Start using mobile payments, web apps. Let's get past that. And then, like I said, once they come in and we have a trust issue, especially with anything that's new. So we want to bring them into the fold, even if they're using US dollars. Totally fine. Use what you want. The merchant can still receive what they want, but once they get in and start getting comfortable, the Bitcoin space and the entire cryptocurrency space is going to continue to educate. As long as that education is happening, I believe that people will begin to have confidence and be able to make that choice for themselves. Hey, I feel confident with Bitcoin, or maybe it's one of 100 other cryptocurrencies.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know about you all, but that was the coolest slideshow I've ever seen. Up next is not really a startup, but this is Bitcoin, so anything goes, and it's Chris DeRose presenting Counterparty.
What's up, party people? My name is Chris DeRose, and if you haven't heard of me or seen me before, I'm the community director of the Counterparty Foundation. And I don't have much time here to introduce our project, but I'm going to make the most of it. I call you party people because you are party people. Everybody in this room holds a Bitcoin wallet, and every person in this room is a counterparty person. You couldn't opt out if you tried. Our software is a meta coin, not an altcoin, and it works on the Bitcoin blockchain. We believe that Bitcoin has a lot of intrinsic value, and we believe that with Bitcoin, you can enable software development and finance software development in particular. We are a fairly full-fledged 2.0 platform. We have support for user assets, a decentralized exchange, and even smart contracts. With Counterparty software, we take this open source philosophy very seriously. We're not paid to be here. There is an XCP token, there is a Counterparty coin, but you don't need it for the majority of the Counterparty functions. You can pretty much ignore it and continue to use Counterparty in its capacity. The coin itself is typically used at this point for burning in the sense of gas for the execution of smart contracts. And for all of you who are really excited about Ethereum and all the features that it offers, well, guess what? Counterparty has most or all of those features today. You can start using it. There's a lot of applications that I'm really excited about. I think that we can solve a lot of applications, problems using the Bitcoin blockchain. Certainly, smart contracts themselves offer a lot of potential. But even like things like having a stable unit of account in Bitcoin is very difficult. Well, by transmitting user-defined assets on the Bitcoin network, you can solve a lot of these problems in a quasi-centralized way, perhaps. But we can transfer things like XUSD tokens, and we can transfer things like points and all these other types of things that we've been talking about. We envision that Bitcoin wallets will become counterparty aware over time, that the manufacturers of the software and the wallets will start to receive and recognize assets on Bitcoin wallets. So there's a lot of future potential there. There's a lot of development potential there. And we're real excited to see this sort of materialize. Our penetration is very high. We're probably the most successful 2.0 platform. Certainly measuring transaction volumes on the Bitcoin blockchain, we are far above the lead compared to everybody that's competing. But even in the 2.0 space, we're doing very well. 3 or 4 of, I think, the top 10 market cap user-defined assets on CoinMarketCap are us. And we have a lot of partners that we're really adding all the time. So certainly we've got the much ballyhooed Overstock relationship. But there's a couple other people that are here as well that are exhibiting and what have you. Counterparty is really wonderful, ready to go, available for use today. I myself spend a lot of time working on demos and on my channel explaining to the community what kind of power there is. For those who don't know, I'm very active in the South Florida scene, and I am in fact the winner of the Miami Bitcoin Hackathon. And what I did was, thank you. What I did was to use Counterparty to demonstrate a lot of the smart contract features. I wrote Opie Dokie, which is a tool
Gonna have to cut you off there.
Is that my time? Yep. Okay, check it out. Questions?
Big one. What's Counterparty doing for scalability?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we can't really get access to in the Medici project, but I believe that they're working on it. Certainly, it's Bitcoin. So BIP70 insured transactions, latency insured transactions are a clear and obvious possibility for us in the future, as well as off-chain transactions. I firmly believe that what we'll see in Bitcoin is instantaneous transactions through these extensions, with the block interval perhaps catching up and persisting in the long term, where the insurance provided by transaction latency providers will probably take over.
I mean, I guess the big one is, do you have any way to put Counterparty on a mobile wallet yet?
We do not have any mobile wallets yet, no. Again, we're an open source project, and we're taking our time and doing it well. So we don't have perhaps some of the funding that people have that are competing with us, but at the same time, because we're an open standard, we think that we're a more sustainable development pattern going forward, much like Bitcoin.
What's your perspective on sidechains?
Well, it's not here yet, so it's hard for me to have a very formalized opinion. But frankly, it's my personal view that we should be embracing them with a Counterparty project. I can't speak for the other developers, but I'm inclined to believe that they agree with me.
So doing an open source project is a lot like a startup, right? So what are your plans for marketing this thing and getting more developers involved?
Right.
Raising money, like funding this thing? What are your plans for that?
That's my responsibility as the community director. Certainly, Overstock is a big partner. They're investing with Medici. Medici may itself become the BitPay to our Bitcoin, so to speak. And we're really trying to forge more relationships with companies by just working and being available, which we're doing. And again, you can look at us on CoinMarketCap. We want to be the CSS to HTML that is Counterparty to Bitcoin, so to speak. And we see us as growing in that sense. The two, if we're lucky and if we succeed, will be synonymous and probably ambiguous in terms of their relationship.
So how can people help you right now?
I'm sorry?
What help do you need? How can we help you?
Well, right now, Vend is doing a wonderful job of providing vending machine services. They could definitely use some help. Maybe you and I can talk after the show. There's a bunch of things that we need done that actually have commercial viability. So if you're on board, I'm glad to hear it.
So in terms of that commercial viability, what do you view as the sort of killer app? What is that thing that should be built on Counterparty that would make this thing blow up?
What we really need in this Bitcoin market right now is a stable unit of account. Bitcoin's not going to be that for a very long time, if ever. With Counterparty assets, we have the ability to solve like the remittance problems that we would have with high volatility. We can transmit perhaps Coinbase USD or BitPay USD that are transmittable back into ACH into your accounts or something. And it'll have all the payment mechanism convenience of Bitcoin. And it'll go through the Bitcoin network, but it'll be in dollars, so it'll be a stable unit of account for people that don't have access to something like that. That's my personal belief in terms of how we can really succeed.
Music to my ears.
Great, everyone.
The next startup addresses a major issue in this space, and that is security. Up next is Stephen Sprague from RIVETZ.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So let me introduce you to RIVETZ. RIVETZ is about bringing and solving one of the really hard challenges in Bitcoin, which is addressing the cybersecurity protection of your private keys. And the way we do that is by providing access to really the state-of-the-art hardware that's within your existing Android and Intel devices. We have relationships with both of those companies, ARM and Intel, to provide access to a trusted execution environment. We're able to write code that runs 100% isolated from the operating system to not only protect the keys, but also to protect the formation of the instruction that's ultimately sent to the blockchain. So this is a very important technology in protecting both privacy, identity, security of a Bitcoin transaction, and really provides us with the opportunity to demonstrate state-of-the-art financial transaction security within the client hardware devices. RIVETZ has been all about signing up a collection of partners. We're not going directly to the market consumer ourselves. We're providing cybersecurity tools to our partners who can incorporate those within our products, within their products. We are shipping our first tool set next week. It's been an interesting process over the course of the last 6 months, both gaining access to the technology and building the tools. And we found a great collection of use cases, everything from, I'll use Paul Snow's comment today, a service that does nothing, I like that, to advanced wallet applications, to messaging and storage. And we think there's a tremendous opportunity to apply this idea that my device can control access to the services to which I belong on the web. So I log into my device logs me into the rest of the services. This is a business with a very strong business model. Fundamentally, you're participating in increasing the value of the relationship for any cloud service with their customer. If ultimately we're able to prove that and demonstrate that a customer who adopts RIVETZ and makes it part of their solution, that the value of their customer base goes up. And we'll participate in that revenue stream, both on a transactional basis, as well as on either a per year or a lifetime basis. So it's a model that drives, we believe, really strong revenue, and we today can support applications running on about 300 million Android phones, primarily from Samsung, and another 250 million Intel platforms. So there's a certain scale to the volume of this business. The company has been really focused on executing their technology. Ooh, it went backwards. Can you guys just put up the last slide? So we've been focused on the execution of this, from demonstrating our first Bitcoin transactions in September to delivering the first set of tools on a real implementation on the testnet. We have actually here, I have it running on my phone, and Mark, our developer, is showing the first instance of a Samsung Galaxy Note running trusted user interface where the actual display and PIN number that you type into the phone is properly protected. So it's as good as a Trezor-based transaction, but running in an off-the-shelf Android phone. And so this is really, at the end of the day, about
We're out of
bringing...
time.
Excellent. I had 20 seconds. Thank you.
I mean, I think all of us recognize that security is obviously a critical component to this whole ecosystem surviving, and I have a strong opinion that that needs to be kind of in the background as much as possible so that it's an easy interface. So I've always kind of been a fan of what you're working on. On your financial slide, just I think there's a mistake there. You show 20 million of EBITDA in year 2 on 18 million of revenue.
Okay, that might be possible.
More earnings than you got revenue. But anyway, I'm curious on that note, what is the economic model, if you can break that down for me?
Yes,
how are you getting paid?
So the economic model goes from transactional to an annual basis. So think of it this way. If there's certain services where you may want to just pay for the feature of hardware security in your device, and we see that in the $5 to $10 range per device, lifetime of the device. All the way down to how do we generate on a sub 10 cent per transaction basis. So in essence,
who's paying that though? Is that blockchain.info? Is that me, the user? Where's the money coming from?
Right. At the end of the day, it's ultimately blockchain.info, to use your example. So they could pay on a transactional basis, 10 cents a transaction, or we could partner and upsell cybersecurity to the end customer. Let's say for $5 for their wallet, you want to turn on hardware security. The user can invest $5 and have it for the lifetime. So there are a range of models depending on the different services. Some people want it built in and invisible. Some people would like to have it as an upsell where we're partnered with them, participating in the revenue to the consumer.
What's the cost with Intel or Tristronic? How does that relationship work?
So rough order of magnitude, the highest it'll ever be is about $1 a device. So one of the things that we do is we abstract that dollar across a range of different services. So it's not for us on a per service basis. So if a phone takes 2 or 3 or 4 services, we're generating revenue from each of those services, but our cost is based on a single service.
As a developer using your SDK, I mean, what does SDK look like? Am I locked into a certain way of doing transactions? Do I get to run code within this environment? What is...
So today, you can't run code in the environment. We're providing some basic functions like create a key pair, generate a Bitcoin key pair, sign something, encrypt something, decrypt something. So very low-level primitive functions so that most of the complexity happens within the wallet application. We're very specifically not trying to lock you in. And I think the right way to approach this is, this is our alpha SDK that'll ship next week, and I expect we'll get plenty of feedback on what we'd like to see. Long term, as you and I have spoken before, the goal here is to provide a scripting capability. You could think of this platform eventually as supporting a level of capability similar to Ethereum, but in the client, which has some really interesting aspects because the processing that happens in your trusted device is private. It happens within your device.
So we're looking at 6 months, 2 years?
I would say it's more like 6 months to a year. I think it depends on how well we do in resourcing this project and how we get to first revenues in. The core to this is how do we sign partners that gain access to 100 million users so we can show conversion of 3 or 4% of those users as driving the revenue stream that drive those revenues.
How do I trust you guys? Bitcoin's interesting because it's open source. We can rip it apart. People have, tried to hack it unsuccessfully. How do we trust you?
So from a trust perspective, we are, at the end of the day, working with platforms like an ARM chip in your Android phone that is a closed platform. We're stuck with that. ARM's not going to open source their ARM chip. Even if they did, there are probably only a half a dozen people on the planet who could figure out what it's really doing. I think the core thing that actually makes this work is identity. So as the industry has looked at hardware and hardware security, one of the best ways to do this is when you go to Black Hat and somebody says, look, a model 56-5 has this weakness in it, whether intentional or accidental, the most important thing to know is whether you have one of those. And so we really bring very strong device identity at a component level, and you're putting major brands behind those capabilities. And I think that's ultimately what will provide the protection. We'll open source as much of the toolkit as we are allowed to do with our partners, so you can see what we're doing, but at the end of the day, these are systems that fundamentally are leveraging what are closed hardware platforms. By the way, you can change that, you just have to stop buying ARM chips and Intel chips.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As revered thought leaders in this industry, we'd like to extend this for a further 5 minutes and just get the judges' thoughts on what really stood out the most.
I think given how many times we've seen people lose Bitcoins, I'm certainly leaning towards RIVETZ. You know, it solves a real problem. It's unfortunate there's issues with, you know, extendability and trust, but I'm pretty happy hearing that.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think RIVETZ is solving a really important problem. And then I also want to know who the graphic designer was for Cashier.
Yeah, in the case of RIVETZ, it's a big idea that will change the game if it's successful for the entire ecosystem. So I commend Steve and the team that are working on this. The question is if and when. But you know, definitely in terms of, you know, as an investor, an important aspect of what we're looking for is, you know, something that's got, you know, extraordinary potential. You know, you want to swing for the fences kind of every time. It's not, we're not making investments with the intention of doubling our money. You know, we're going, how do I make an investment and create a multi-billion-dollar enterprise?
Or
and,
lose it.
Yeah.
Or lose it all. My favorite was Counterparty. I mean, there's just so much passion behind that project, and I know it's not a startup, but if those guys had a business, I'd be definitely looking at it very carefully.
Agreed.
For those startups that may pitch to one of you three in the future, which I find highly likely, what's the best advice you can give?
You just got to make it simple. Like, you got to get it in 2 seconds. You know, your story should be elevator pitch means the elevator ride. It's not, you know, it's not the elevator ride and then you hang out for 20 minutes afterwards. It's the elevator. If you can't explain your concept quickly and succinctly and what the value proposition is and, you know, why it's going to be a great investment, then people lose you.
We're going to sell books online, Amazon. You want to be able to distill your business down to something that simple. Obviously, then there's longer conversations that occur, but yeah, you should be able to summarize what you're working on to the point where I know what you're building. I've had many meetings with you know, companies that have been pitching me where after an hour I still don't know what they do.
And that's so important, not only for like investors, but employees and partners, and that resonates throughout the whole ecosystem of how a company is building itself out. So,
you know, even on the tech side of things, I mean, my usual advice is if you can't explain your idea to a fine arts grad and have them understand it, it's probably not a very good one.
Yeah, and I think also my usual advice to startups is you know, you're not here to impress venture capitalists or other investors. You're here, you know, in raising money is a big part of your job as a CEO, but building a business is the biggest job. And so you got to look beyond this situation. It's you know, that's not your goal. Your goal is to build a great business.
And back to why that's important. You know, I've looked at 600, call it business plans over the course of the last year in the space, had over 200 meetings, and it's just kind of signaled to noise. While I was in Vegas, a company I did ultimately invest in, the entrepreneur comes up and goes, Brock, why didn't you like our deal? Why did you pass? I never really took a look at it. I said, well, it's not the right environment here, but, you know, give me the short strokes over the next 2-3 minutes. I'm like, okay, interesting people. I like the, you know, initial traction you have, and within a couple of days made an investment, but it's you're competing against, you know, 100 other things that are going on with each of us at any given moment and making yourself stand out. And a big part of that is don't make me think too hard. I'm not that smart.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen.